First of all, I would like to thank our colleagues from the International Conference on Techniques, Technologies and Education, ICTTE 2021, for the invitation to our paper, Education for Sustainable Development Through Design Thinking. These are Sabine Högsdal and Professor Annemarie Grundmeier from the University of Education in Freiburg, Germany. Welcome to our talk, Education for Sustainable Development Through Design Thinking, which pleads for education for sustainable development in the textile and fashion sector and shows possibilities how this can be implemented from elementary school to higher education and vocational training. Firstly, we will give an overview of the structure of our presentation. We begin by highlighting the non-sustainable practices and deficits that can be found in the fashion and textile sector worldwide and explain the sustainability goals in the context of the UN Roadmap ESD for 2030. In order to raise the awareness for sustainability and implement these goals, education is needed. Then we introduce the concept of ESD as a guiding principle with a core element design competence, implemented by the interdisciplinary method of design thinking. In order to successfully teach the ESD-relevant design competence, various didactic principles are required. It can be shown that they are very similar to the principles and phases of DT. There is a need for sustainable action in the textile sector. Clothing production doubled from 2000 to 2014, reaching 100 billion for the first time in 2014, which is approximately 14 garments per global citizen. Referring to a McKinsey report done by Remy, Spielmann and Swartz in 2016. Reasons for this development are population growth, growing prosperity in newly industrialized countries, and the accompanying increase in demand. In Germany, clothing is the non-food consumer goods segment with the highest turnover, referring to Haan 2021. Consumption increased. The product life cycle of textiles and clothing has shortened significantly. In Europe, almost 26 kilograms of textiles are purchased annually per person, and approximately 11 kilograms are disposed of, referring to the European Parliament in 2020. The manner in which textiles and clothing are produced, used, and disposed requires the transition from a linear to a circular system. Circular textile economies require new business models that promote these changes and develop appropriate systems in manufacturing, retail, services, reuse, and recycling. These sustainability issues affected industrialized, developing, and new industrialized countries, which have to reconcile their responsibility in the areas of social standards, environmental and climate protection with pursuit of economic growth. The textile and fashion industry are not exempt from this. A change of mindset is required on the part of all actors in the textile value chain. In order to realize a change towards sustainability, educated and collaborative consumers are required. The concept of ESD emerged from the UN decade from 2005 to 2014, which was proclaimed by the United Nations. The global vision underlying the decade was to provide all people worldwide with educational opportunities that enable them to acquire the values and knowledge, as well as the behaviors and life cycles necessary for positive social change and a future worth living. Development is generally considered sustainable when people worldwide, present and future, can live with dignity and develop their needs and talents while respecting planetary boundaries. ESD is an educational mandate with the aim of anchoring sustainable development as a guiding principle in all areas of education, so that global problems such as overexploitation of nature, climate change, or poverty could be solved. With the ESD 2030 program, a new ESD decade begins in 2021. The UNESCO's ESD 2030 roadmap summarizes the central contents of the new ESD program. It shows how education for sustainable development will be implemented over the next 10 years and serves as a roadmap for member states and ESD actors, referring to the German Commission for UNESCO 2021. With a future vision of shaping a sustainable and peaceful society, the United Nations adopted the Global Sustainability Agenda, known as Agenda 30, in 2015. A total of 17 sustainability goals specify the areas in which sustainable development must be anchored and strengthened by 2030. Education is indispensable for achieving these 17 goals. High-quality education goes beyond mere factual knowledge and should enable all participants to develop skills such as autonomous action, participation in social decision-making processes, forward thinking, as well as interdisciplinary knowledge. Gerhard de Haan is a German educational scientist, most recently employed at the Freie University Berlin in Germany. From 2005 to 2014, he was chair of the National Committee for the United Nations Decade of Education for Sustainable Development. In 2008, he wrote, "To do business today, to shape politics, and to live in such a way that conditions worth living in are created or made possible for present and future generations. This is possible according to the concept of sustainability when ecology, economy, and social issues are viewed together as interdependent. Combining economic prosperity with socially just conditions while minimizing environmental pollution and conserving natural resources, and not imposing burdens on future generations that would impair their life chances compared with today's, has become the object of both international and national policy." The concept of ESD thus describes a transformative and holistic education that considers both learning content and outcomes, as well as the learning environment and pedagogy. Teaching and learning should be designed interactively to enable action-oriented, transformative, and explorative learning. It is not only about sustainability issues such as biodiversity or climate protection, but about developing a global view that enables people to be responsible citizens, starting with everyday decisions. Consequently, ESD affects all people and is a continuous process that contributes to the acceptance of processes involving social change. In this context, ESD serves in particular to gain basic knowledge for tackling key societal problems and design competence. This coincides with Petruschat, 2017, who regards design as a formative activity which is able to intervene in ecological contexts. In the school context, the aim of ESD is that pupils acquire competences with regard to sustainable development. Competence are generally understood as the cognitive abilities and skills available to or learnable by individuals to solve specific problems, as well as the associated motivational, volitional, and social dispositions and skills to use solutions successfully and responsibly in variable situations. ESD is particularly concerned with the following major concerns: readiness to engage and take responsibility, dealing with risks and uncertainty, empathy for other people's living situation, and sound judgment on future issues. In Germany, the promotion of design competence is part of the overarching educational goal of the Orientation Framework for Global Development Learning, which was commissioned by the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development and the Conference of Ministers of Education in Germany. According to the Haan, design competence is the core competence of ESD. Design competence refers to the ability to apply knowledge about sustainable development and to recognize problems of non-sustainable development. This means being able to draw conclusions about ecological, economic, and social developments in their interdependence from analysis of the present and studies of the future. Furthermore, it also includes being able to make, understand, and individually, collectively, and politically implement decisions based on these conclusions with which sustainable development processes can be realized. Here you can see the target dimensions of sustainability, society, economy, and ecology. Combining economic prosperity with socially just conditions while minimizing environmental pollution and conserving natural resources and not imposing burdens on future generations that would impair their life chances compared with today's has become the objective of both international and national policy. And here you can see that the Haan's target dimensions of sustainability are in accordance with another model. This is the model of innovation through design thinking, which was developed by IDEO and D-School. Only when the intersection of all three areas is given, real innovation has been created. DT, or design thinking, is the tool, the mindset, and the process which enables that kind of innovation. We can say that, in other words, design thinking brings together what is desirable from a human point of view with what is technologically feasible and economically viable in order to create user-centered innovation. Once again, you can have a look at the innovation model on the left-hand side in comparison to the target dimensions of sustainability on the right-hand side. So this slide shows the congruence of the innovation model of IDEO and D-School with the three dimensions of sustainability by de Haan. This suggests that ESD could be understood as an innovation desired by humans or citizens. Design thinking can be seen as an enabler of design competence with regard to ESD. At the beginning of the millennium, the US design agency IDEO pushed for innovation, especially in technology-related areas by means of design thinking. This became necessary due to a standstill in the area of technological innovation in regard to Brown 2009, Meinl and Weinberg and Krohn 2015. This circumstance can roughly be compared to a standstill in the textile sector that currently makes it difficult, but at the same time urgently requires to implement an orientation towards sustainability. The comparison leads to the assumption that design thinking has also high potential to implement ESD in this industrial sector. So the question is, what is design thinking? According to IDEO and HBI School of Design Thinking, which further developed the design thinking methods of IDEO at the so-called Hasso-Plattner Institute, with the acronym HBI of the University of Potsdam, Germany, design thinking is a systematic approach to complex problems from all areas of life, also including ESD. The approach goes far beyond the classic design disciplines such as shape, layout, and industrial design. In contrast to many approaches in science and engineering practice, design thinking addresses a task from the technical feasibility or economic viability. User requirements and needs, as well as user-oriented inventions, are at the center of the process. Designers look at challenges through the user's glasses and thus put themselves into the role of the user. Design thinking involves an iterative process with the 6 phases: understand, observe, point of view, ideate, prototype, and test, to be seen in the figure. Design thinking process can be divided in these 6 phases as the Design Thinking School of Hasso-Plattner Institute does it. So let us follow the different phases. The first phase is understanding. Get a feel and common understanding of the issue. Grasp the context, so think broadly and try to see more. Think about all the areas in which the theme occurs. In the second phase, you're asked to observe. Put yourself in the live world of users in order to understand their needs. Develop empathy instead of your own interpretations and assumptions. In the third phase, define the challenge. Draw conclusions from the understanding and observing phases. Decide together on the central challenge. In the fourth phase, find ideas. Generate diversity of ideas with targeted creativity techniques. Use the diversity of the team to create high-quality solutions. Take a focus from the diversity of ideas. In the fifth phase, develop prototypes. Make ideas tangible. Let them be experienced and communicate them. Prototypes are opportunities to enter into a dialogue with users. Structured action instead of endless discussions. And in the sixth phase, it's the testing. Find out if the ideas really work for the target group. Let the users try it out and think out loud. Based on these insights, refine the concept until the best possible solution is found or the approach has to be discarded. Besides the iterative process, there are 2 more core elements like multidisciplinary teams and variable working spaces. Variable spaces make it possible to meet spontaneously with colleagues to exchange ideas and gather ideas. No individual offices, but open, large rooms with adjustable tables and walls where people can visualize ideas. Design thinking requires and enables collaborative work in teams or groups of people with different expertise and backgrounds, different ages, positions, etc. Multidisciplinary teams work together on a task or solution because, as Meinl, Weinberg, and Krohn said in 2015, together we are smarter than any of us. The members learn to become aware of their own points of view and formulate them, to listen to and respond to other team members' points of view, and not to evaluate ideas and points of view at first. There are 12 principles of design thinking as a mindset for creative confidence. These are interdisciplinary cooperation, embrace failure, embrace experimentation, build on the ideas of others, defer judgment, focus in human values, empathy, culture of prototyping, craft clarity, show, don't tell, bias toward action, and radical collaboration. The principles from number 7 to number 12 have been investigated in a research project about creative confidence in educational settings. As one of the results, it can be stated that these principles lead to more creative confidence in educators and trainers. Creative confidence is a key in order to realize design competence. When teachers have confidence in their own creative competence, they are able to foster creativity and design skills in their students. Design competence refers to the ability to apply knowledge about sustainable development and to recognize problems of non-sustainable development. This means being able to draw conclusions about ecological, economic, and social developments in their interdependence from analysis of the present and studies of the future. Furthermore, it also includes being able to make, understand, and individually, collectively, and politically implement decisions based on these conclusions with which sustainable development process can be realized in regard to Haan. The Haan divided design competence into 12 sub-competences. It is obvious that these 12 sub-competences of design competence developed by the Haan in order to implement ESD show a high congruence to the DT principles described by Brown in 2009, Meinl and others in 2015, and Raut and others in 2010. Build up knowledge in an open-minded way and integrate new perspectives. Plan and act in cooperation with others. Reflect on one's own guiding principles and those of others. Be able to analyze and assess developments with foresight. Consider conflicting goals when reflecting on strategies for action. Use ideas of justice as a basis for decision-making and action. Gain knowledge and act in an interdisciplinary manner. Participate in collective decision-making processes. Plan and act independently. Recognize and consider risks, dangers, and uncertainties. Motivate yourself and others to become active. And last but not least, show empathy for others. There was an online workshop on design thinking's potential for ESD, which was conducted in June 2021 within the framework of the EU Erasmus Plus project Fashion Diet. The organizer was the George Azachi Technical University of Iași in Romania. About 70 participants, lecturers, high school teachers, and educators in the textile and fashion industry from Bulgaria, Romania, and Germany were involved. The workshop included an introduction to the history and theory of design thinking and a detailed explanation of its principles and phases by means of the well-known D-School exercise, The Perfect Wallet. This exercise is particularly suitable to illustrate the working methods and principles of design thinking in a short time and let the participants experience a fast design sprint according to fixed times. The high user orientation of design thinking becomes clear through the fast and multiple change of roles between consumers and designers. The aspect of fast prototyping and the handling of materials, especially the fact that ideas arise directly from the material and during the process of building, thus can be essentially experienced also by non-designers in regard to Petroshat 2013 and Viz 2018. At the end of the workshop, a discussion based on guiding questions was conducted by means of a Padlet group work, which took part online. The participants should express their feedback and opinions towards the potential of design thinking in general, as well as its potential to sensitize learners to ESD or sustainability topics. Their participation in the group work was voluntary, and they could choose whether to express their opinion under their real names or anonymously. For each question, multiple answers could be given. So I would like to show you specific answers to 3 questions. And here you have 4 answers. How can design thinking be used as a method for ESD is the question. The first answer was by focusing on the consequences of our actions, beginning with everyday life, and thus also on the impact that it has on others and on the planet in the distant future. Another answer was, design thinking is an iterative process. It will help to develop new products out of used textiles. And by developing responsibility, teamwork, and creativity through specific group exercises, and by applying designer sensibility as a method of ESD. Another question was, how can we promote the idea of circular fashion by means of design thinking? And here you can see 3 examples out of all 6 answers. I believe this is a great method for self-management, and it can be developed as a way of life for solving all our daily problems. Another answer was, in this case, the problems that have to be solved refer to reduce or eliminate the pre- and post-consumer waste. And the third answer was, taking into consideration the nonlinear nature of design thinking. Find here selected examples out of all 14 answers that are to be found in our paper to the question, if not only for implementing ESD, what else is design thinking good for? One answer was, it is useful for any question or problem you have to tackle with. Another was, this method can be used for students to learn interactive teaching methods they could implement when they themselves will be teachers or trainers. And the third was, it can be used in any moment a class or group of students is blocked and cannot go further in the task they have to complete. Or to develop critical thinking for collaborative design, for interaction, or for problem solving, no matter what the problem is. Due to the online format of the conference, the participants sat in front of their laptops and spread over several countries and could give their answers only based on the presentation about design thinking and the moderator's explanations of the perfect wallet exercise. Despite these limiting circumstances, their answers can be considered remarkable in terms of comprehending and highlighting the potential of DT, because it shows that the participants were able to recognize and understand the following aspects. Its iterative character and potential for fostering creativity and teamwork, its potential for self-management and problem solving, as well as its nonlinear character, and its potential for self-development on the one hand, and for collaboration and interaction in team settings on the other hand, as well as for problem solving and technical issues. In summary, it is noticeable that the participants repeatedly expressed their approval and great interest in this method. The textile and fashion industry of today is characterized by constant growth processes, very short production cycles, and low sales prices with a high ecological and social impact. Therefore, as a conclusion, we can say we need ESD in textile education. ESD as a guiding principle should be implemented in textile education from kindergarten to university courses in order to develop a sustainable mindset throughout lifetime and transform the textile chain into a circular system. As an interdisciplinary educational concept with a cross-sectional task, ESD not only serves to gain basic knowledge in order to cope with key problems, but at the same time serves to acquire design competence. And therefore, the method of design thinking is very useful to implement ESD in textile education. We would like to thank all university lecturers, teachers, educators, students, and children for their active and committed participation and contributions in our studies. We would also like to thank the European Union for co-funding the Erasmus Plus Fashion Diet project. Sustainable Fashion Curriculum at Textile Universities in Europe, Development, Implementation, and Evaluation of a Teaching Module for Educators. The short in-text citation refers to the reference list of the ICTTE 2021 paper, Education for Sustainable Development Through Design Education. Thank you very much for your attention. And please now have a look at the reference list. Thank you very much for listening.